Hello there and welcome. In this video I will give you an advanced guide through Songs of Syx version 70. This video is a follow-up to my beginner's guide. We're going to go in this one over things that will help you once your city has grown to a substantial point. Here I chose 75 people as my threshold because that's when you have unlocked science, when you have unlocked import and export, and this is basically where the game starts to open up into very many different directions to choose from, and I hope that in this video I'm managing to cover the most impactful things for you, and if not, ask away. So the first thing, we're seeing here a little village, the one that I was doing my beginner's tutorial with. New things are I have now a woodcutter for the automated wood production, and we have a couple of grain farms, a couple of bakeries, and with the help of that, this city is pretty much sustaining itself. I'll be explaining more about that during the course of the video, but if you come from the previous video, I just wanted to tell you where we're at. I also added a few more service buildings, a food stall, a lavatory, and I also built already a lab. But beyond that, not much has changed if you've coming from the previous video. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is import and export. These are extremely valuable tools. Import depot and export depot allow you to automate the trading. While you can manually trade whatever you want via diplomacy, eventually this really grows a little bit tiresome and you don't want to make everything by hand. So here goes. The export depot is my biggest friend in terms of selling off overproductions. So you're just telling that guy to fetch from a certain resource depot. So we're going to tell it here from this warehouse. We're telling it that it is ought to, let's say, exporting our wood overproduction. And now this thing will automatically send off the things that you have in overproduction. So here, this is what you're going to go. The priority limit will now tell the people that only when 90% of the warehouse crates are filled, they're allowed to start hauling things to the export depot. With this slider here, you select how much you want to keep in stock, and with these little fields here, we select from where we want to sell off. Mind you though, to get the automation going, you first need to sign a trade treaty with your neighbors, and that can be worth quite a lot of money. So you need to either pay them off in resources or in money. By the way, everything you export via the depot gets back into your treasury as money. And with that, we can operate the import depot. So here with that one, we're telling the game what we want to buy, and then we're telling the game how much we want to import. Here we select how much of our warehouse stock is supposed to be maintained by the import, and that means we're always trying to fill our warehouses to 10% via import, and whenever our warehouse stockpiles plummet below 10%, a new order will go out and new stuff will be bought as long as we have money for that. These two tools allow you to go for a lot of things that are otherwise very annoying and complicated. You can configure all these settings more precisely, but these are the basic things that you need to make the ball rolling. My general tip for that is anything, and I mean really anything, that has full warehouses eventually in your city should be exported away, because any overproduction will just be left on the ground to rot away. You are literally letting money rot away. Now, next thing on the list, science. So once we have 75 people, we're unlocking laboratories. Here, we put workers in to generate innovation. We can also tell them to use clay to generate more innovation. So basically, it is something where we can add in an extra resource. You don't need to, but they become much more effective if you do so. Like many of the buildings in this game, they can be upgraded. Mind you, one thing though, if you upgrade them, the janitors that you're using to keep the city intact will require metal then too, because everything can only be kept up with the materials it's built out of. That is a general rule for Songs of Syx. So when you ever think, hey, I can't just buy me some gems and buy something and build something costly, always keep in sight that the upkeep is there. Okay, when it comes down to the science itself, it is split up in two sections: innovation and knowledge. Knowledge is generated in libraries, and at this point of the game, so far away from you that you can't just ignore it for the time being. It's worth noting, though, that the innovation costs are in green and the knowledge costs are in blue and on the other side of the boxes. We always generate a little bit of innovation automatically when we get a level up or even knowledge. These are permanent. These never decay and they never go bad. The other points that you gain here require permanent manpower to be kept up. Otherwise, they'll deteriorate, and that means the technologies you unlocked with these points will become frozen until you have put workers back to unfreeze that innovations thing. So basically, in Songs of Syx, knowledge gets lost if we don't work on preserving it. Anywho, in this ginormous tree, the most important things are luckily on the top. Civics. These buildings that you can unlock here, they all have a low cost and a high impact. I highly recommend to unlock proper burial, entertainment, and, well, the posh relief you don't need so much, but everything that unlocks a new building in the civics area is very, very much worth it. Upgrades aren't bad, but new buildings are fulfilling new needs for services for the people, and that is kind of a big deal. That pulls a lot of immigrants into your city, and that helps your city grow. So basically, the civics menu is where you unlock new immigration pools and new things that make your citizens happy in general. In the architecture menu, it goes a little bit into the similar venue. We unlock here, though, a lot of logistical goodies too, but most of these items that you unlock here make the people happier in one way or another, but they're also quite costly. Empire skills you can totally ignore for the time being, because Empire is mid and late game. Military, once you want to go that path, here you find anything, but you don't need it in the beginning. When your city gets attacked and you don't have fighters to defend it, you'll always get a bailout option to just pay them off, and early game, that's the best way to deal with that problem. Government things, be careful with that. Most of these items we don't really need, but here again, things that unlock new services like the guards and such are very, very good investments of your permanent points that you get by ranking up your city. I personally want to leave here the industrial crops and all these things to your own liking, because here we unlock enhancers for the industries, and specialization is the name of the game. We can totally specialize in what our city produces best, and I highly recommend to do so. Any of these innovations that increase production ratios are very, very powerful, and they really get you somewhere. As the last thing before we go into the next topic, Fine Crafts allows you to unlock entirely new production chains, and this is very important when you want to go into new industries. But all in all, I recommend take it slow. Innovation points are hard earned, and the strongest investments in the early phase of the game are the civics. And from there on out, check out what specializations your city has, what it can produce best, and or what it needs most, and enhance that. At the end of the day, all technologies that you have unlocked can be forgotten also again. So we can unlock here the proper burial, but we can hold left shift to disable it, and then they'll be added to the frozen pool, and then they'll be funneled back. So basically, with given enough time, we can reskill what we want to, but I wouldn't recommend, because it's easier to just look at the things that you require and skill accordingly. Now, population management is the next thing on my script list. When we look into this here, we have a lot of things that we can work with. all of these make a specific part of your population more happy. Mind you, that you can build your city consisting out of several cultures, and there's many different things that you can pack together. Not all cultures work exactly well together. Some even dislike one another. Here, for example, the humans have a dislike towards the Tilapi. It might have something to do with the fact that Tilapi find human delicious, but I don't know. It's just an assumption of mine. Anywho, in the question mark menu here, you also find out pretty much all of the preferences of your current species. And it really pays off to go deep into that profile of the people. If you want to mix a city, it obviously becomes more complicated because now you have to look for two of these tables. For a beginner, I strongly recommend to keep your city mono species. It's the easiest way to handle things, but if you're an experienced player or you like the challenge, mixing cultures is not necessarily so hard, it's just a little bit more complicated. Other thing that I want to point out in this section is the population access menu. This down here, the housing menu, is very, very interesting and allows you to make your people very happy. With these sliders here, we can allow people to take a certain material out of our stockpiles to furnish their homes. That's why when you start out, the inner workings of your houses look like a hobo camp. That is because they don't have access to proper items yet. It's up to you to change that. The more of these they got, the happier they'll get, as with all these things in this screen. Most important though, you see here the consumption thing. This is how much it'll cost you extra of the specific good. By the way, if you didn't know, you can always mouse over the goods here to see, compare consumptions versus productions and see if you're net negative or net positive. So, in short, the furniture menu is a really nice gauge to make your people a little bit happier, as is the equipment bar here. If you have enough clothing, turning this one up makes your people also much happier, but it'll make them pick up 6 pieces of clothing per person. And we can also do the same things with food and such. Just that you know, we can control in this menu a lot of things to indulge our people into luxuries, and this doesn't happen by itself. Also, I want to showcase here in the services menu why it is so hard to get one of these meters to a full degree. First up, it is impossible to fully fill them without a fully upgraded building. That is because, as you see here, when we mouse over, we have 100% access. That means everybody who wants a food stall finds a food stall. Proximity, 96%. Okay, they're thinking it could be a little bit closer. Quality, also fine. But here's upgrade, 33%. That means this food stall problem here will never be on 100% until we have fully upgraded all the food stalls in the entirety of our city. That is why the services menu often looks as if you are not doing too well. That is just because you haven't yet put everything onto full quality. Always look into these info boxes. They show you a much more detailed picture when it comes down to the saturation of services. Another thing at this point that I want to point out is this fun mesh grid thing. When you select a service building like the lavatory here, you see these blue boxes. These depict population parts that want to go poop. If they're blue, there's enough services for everybody. When they turn red, you don't have enough lavatory. It is not only for the lavatories. All your service buildings work like that. Every single one has this mesh grid heat map system, and when you click them, you can easily discern where you need a new service building. Also, look at here, bright cyan, less bright cyan. This also already denotes the proximity issue. That's these folks. These are the ones complaining that the food stall ain't close enough. You see, with these you can really find out a lot of things that you want to know. To answer that question, do I need another lavatory or not? This is where you find the info for that. Besides that, it is the most important thing to only recruit people into your city when your food production rate is net positive. This is one of the most important things because a lack of food, a lack of food stored makes the people uneasy. The more food is stored, the higher the happiness. This also means in the other direction that if you suddenly double your population, they'll become uneasy because what they had in terms of food is suddenly only 50% what it was before. What is it? What if we starve? You see, the thing here is take it in small, bite-sized chunks and make sure that the services for your people are there. One last thing before I go into the next topic. The environmental thing, here you can see which things your populace wants and how happy they are about it. What I want to stress out in this point is just some things are entirely ignoring. So humans ignore the lighting, humans ignore the availability of roundness, squareness, and whatnot. Only the things that have a bar attached to the end of it are effectively influencing the happiness of your folks. All the other things here, well, click yourself through it. They all work similar to what we got here. I want to go into the next topic. That is farming and irrigation. So, a ever-recurring question: how much field do I need for my bakery? How much field do I need for my people? So first up, the info box here is very precise. So as you see here, currently we have more grain farms than being farmed than we need for our bakeries. This is being produced by 2 farms with 10 workers each. So here you have now 2 options. Either you go and make yourself a farm to your own liking. When you see the heat map here, I strongly recommend to go for as bright cyan areas as possible. And the most important thing when you're going to set up a farm, or the most important 2 things for me are, leave a gap between these for irrigation canals, and always try to adapt your field size in a way that it has full integers of workers. So you see here, we want to work that it is at least 7 farmers. You can't take it field by field, boom, just like that. This is pretty important for the worker efficiency at the end of the day. Here you see a projection of the daily production of the field. This is already divided through the fact that it only yields one harvest per year. This also means when you want to go farming, you will need quite a lot of storage spots for grain. Keep that in mind, because the total amount that you see here, these 45 pieces of grain per day, they all come in at harvest day all at once, and then it's distributed to the rest of the year. You can also, and that is pretty nifty, left shift click to just copy your current farm setup. So here we could just slap one of these 10 worker farms on top of that. I often create a blueprint of one of these and just copy pasta it. You can even take it a step further and go for blueprints. So you can here either copy them directly, or where's the blueprint? Ah, here. The room blueprint menu, where you can directly add things into your blueprint library and then copy paste them to your own liking. Works, by the way, for any of your workshops. Now, the other part of the medal is irrigation. You need a water pump for that, way too many workers, and then they create water pressure. That water pressure can now be pressured through canals. You see here your water pump has a connector. That's where you can put the canal onto. And you see here now how the magic of the water spreads. And this is providing a modifier for your fields. And as you see there, you always get a prognosis about the impact, and that is the reason why we want those gaps between our fields to run irrigation canals through. So as far as I know, 7 wide fields, so only 7 cells into this dimension where my mouse cursor is hovering, seem to be the absolute sweet spot in terms of fertility spread via irrigation. If you like to min-max things, that is. I think 11 wide should also work, but I personally don't give too much about that. I take the field sizes and shapes as I like them, and don't mind too much about the innermost things that don't get the maximum fertility. But irrigation is insanely important, and the water industry will eat up workers like crazy for you. Thing is, you do require them because the output of a irrigated field is massively higher than the other way around. Also, you can use this water to host bathing houses and such, so there is a double usage for that. Also, the last thing that I want to point out is your folks can just move over those canals. As you see there, they're building little stepstones over where they need to cross the canal, and these are not blocking the movements of your citizens. I had a lot of worries initially, and I felt like maybe you do too. So, let's move on to the last point of this video. That is city planning and logistics. At this point, the scope of the game will hit you with full force, because whatever you do, you will notice that every industry, every idea of yours does require a lot of workers, a lot of space, or even both. So, to give you a good example, I just want to showcase here, we have a clay deposit here. Let me show you something, just to give you a taste of what I'm talking about here. Building a clay pit of this size here is already keeping 34 people busy. As you see, I'm not even close to scraping the bottom of the barrel here. So, this is just clay. And this game has so many industries that are so labor intense that it means you'll have to think about how you do things. In short, wherever you want to build an industry, here, for example, the clay, you will need to replicate the town center that you had here. The services, the hearth, the well, the marketplace, the lavatory, the houses, they all need to repeat themselves over where you want to build a new area. This will make ways the shortest for your people and also generate a lot of happiness. The other thing that I can recommend here is to bring up warehouses specifically for your outposts. This way, you can do such fun shenanigans like these. You tell that warehouse not to be fetching from its surroundings, or you do, it doesn't matter that much. By the way, you can configure the fetch radius of your warehouses with that. Can be significantly made smaller with that. And what I like, for example, for my outposts is to assign one crate of the favorite foods, and then I tell this specific warehouse with the sorry, I was a little bit too fast, with the pull source command, that it is ought to pull the resources now from whichever warehouse is storing my food. Now what happens is that the delivery man here will now go over to that warehouse, fill the stockpiles in that, and this means your food stalls and everything will have much shorter travel times, and that is what it's all about. You want to keep travel times and such as short as possible. It is making you so much more efficient the shorter your workways can be. It is quite amazing. Apart from that, you also want to consider that from this point on out, it is worth thinking a lot of time or planning a lot of where do you want to spread your city towards to. Overlays can help you a lot with that. I personally really like to go for the soil here. I already showed that off. So where the best soil is at, I really don't like to build housing. Where the worst soil is at, this one is an excellent example, this is where we can build houses or industry. Just consider that every soil has its own advantages and disadvantages, and putting your housing and your industry at the same spot where you can host your farms, yeah, I think I don't need to explain more about that. So all in all, what I have discovered over the time that I've been playing this game, it pays off a lot to segment your city. have a trader's corner, have a farmer's corner, farming village, have an artisan's area which might be close to your mining, because this way the ore doesn't need to be carried far. Such things, they really make a big difference, and on top of that, they make your city organically looking, which is always a nice thing. So, from here on out, this knowledge will guide you well through the all you need to the next big threshold point, and that is when you're unlocking the embassy and unlocking the whole empire gameplay. This does require you to hit a population officially of 400. I personally would recommend something between 500 and 1000 when you want to go for real for the Empire game, because only because you're allowed to do so doesn't mean that you are already effective at doing so. Anywho, I will go for another type of these videos with the whole Empire thing, but now you are armed with pretty much anything you need to know to chew your way to the top of the ladder. I hope this helped you out. If there are still questions left, and I bet there are, this game is deep enough for that, ask away in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer them. Apart from that, feel free to leave a like, leave a subscribe, consider donating via Ko-fi or any other given means. YouTube channel memberships are also very welcome. Any little thing helps a lot in keeping this channel free from any shoved in advertisers or such, because your help makes it possible that I can just provide info content like I do. So, thanks for helping me out on this quest, and thanks for watching this video up until the very end. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you all on the next one.